Okay, so first I suppose I should get the apologies out of the way because this is actually the fourth time in about 2 weeks that I've commented, whined, and wheezed on about this Laughing Witch Saga, which is not to be confused with Bubble Witch Saga, which is a kind of puzzle bobble buster move clone and follow up to Candy Crush. Totally different thing there. But there are sort of extenuating circumstances as to why I'm commenting on this. So I do apologise, and I apologise for hoping, fingers crossed, that some of you will sit through this. But it's one of these situations that's kind of evolved, and evolved quite rapidly. And so it's one of these things where you make a video and then a day later you think, oh bollocks, yeah, what I've said, I need to alter my position a little bit there. In this instance, it's been a few days since I made a video because I've been away and I've not had the chance even when I've got back to record video. And what has happened is they've spoken to the local media. Not a lot new there, really, because it's just the same shit where they don't really, what I kind of detest about the whole thing is the way that they never really say what happened, do they? It's kind of, well, she wrote this letter and it was a little bit ill-informed, but they never sort of say she got involved in orchestrating a letter campaign to instruct somebody's employer, the local police and the local media, that they are a Nazi sympathiser. It's never kind of specified, obviously not, because there'd be quite a big loss of sympathy there if they did that. So that side of it's always glossed over, of course. But then there's the agent of doubt's revelations, which is that they owed a sum of money. They had a court judgment against them for a sum of money. Guess what the sum of money is? About $25,000, which is the sum that they're looking to raise, which I'm sure is just some huge coincidence, right? That is just a total fucking coincidence. But by Christ, it looks a little bit fishy, doesn't it? Just a little bit suspicious there. And wouldn't you think? And I know I would, and I can't expect everybody else to act exactly how I would. But if I was starting a fundraising campaign like this for $25,000 and I'd recently had a judgment against me for $25,000, I'd be thinking, do you know what? If this came out, it's going to look a little bit suspicious here. Perhaps if I disclose this in advance, it won't look quite so suspicious. But they chose not to do that. That's the path they went down, and so it looks suspicious. Why wouldn't it look suspicious? So I wanted to comment on it because of these new things, and I've got a few things that I want to say on it. But the other reason I want to comment on it is because, and this may have occurred to you, it may not, but this situation is quite unlike most of the purportedly or superficially similar situations we have, in that this is a genuine moral dilemma. Generally, if we're talking about something like doxing, although you could frame that as a moral dilemma, which is a situation where pretty much whatever you choose, one moral imperative or another, is going to be transgressed again. You sort of, so you're weighing up one transgression against another. But generally, we don't frame it in those terms with something like doxing. We have a moral argument on one side that somebody's done this terrible thing to me, and so I'm morally justified in doxing them. That's the argument made on one side, but we tend to frame that against a more practical concern, don't we? That if we allow these things to happen, it's going to be to the detriment of all of us. So it's a pragmatic argument that we're setting alongside it. Here we have a more genuine moral dilemma. Again, we could have said it against a practical argument, but it hasn't been. It's been said on the one side of the kind of moral justification for Thunderfoot's argument, but set aside the moral justification of this human shield that is involved. And it's interesting, this human shield thing, is it not? Because I've used the term human shield in one of my other videos, but perhaps from the outset it wasn't a human shield, right? If you look at the language that Laughing Witch and her husband have used. Laughing Witch originally, I don't think it was a human shield, in as much as what her argument was: I'm throwing these bombs at you, right? Don't bother throwing these bombs back because I'm an employer and it's not going to hurt me, because you can't have the same kind of impact. You can't lose me my job. But the rhetoric has changed now. The rhetoric has changed. Now look, we've got this human shield. I'm still going to keep throwing these bombs at you, right? I'm still going to keep coming out with these snide little lines in everything that we say. But don't you throw them back, because these are the people that are going to get hurt. I find that a little bit unethical, to take that approach. If you realise you've got a human shield like that you cannot avoid, Surely the ethical thing to do is to stop throwing bombs, not to stand behind them and keep doing the self-same thing. But there was 2 points that I wanted to discuss here. 2 things that don't really ring true, that I want to add on to tack on to what I've said before. Because do you know what? I'm kind of not buying the situation anymore. I'm not buying this idea that the damage that they're claiming has been done. And maybe that is partly my naivety. It's one of those situations in one way where, you know, when you've thought something and you think about saying it and then you don't, and then afterwards you think, bastard, I wish I'd said that. And, you know, I know a lot of people, other than the people that work where I work, in fire service, the next group of people that I know the most of is tradespeople. That's people with either a sort of singular trade, joiner, bricklayer, sparky, plumber, whatever, but also people with more applied trades, like they fit UPVC windows, they have a business that fits UPVC windows, or a French polisher, or what have you. And what I know is that the work that people get, even in those more applied trades, tends to come more from word of mouth. The goodwill that they build up in their business is through the work that they have done, and it involves the people that they have done work with, and effectively their advertising comes from those people, and it comes from word of mouth. And I kind of, from the very first time that this started, there's part of me that thought, you know, this is a bit strange, because I would have thought with a bath restoration business it'd be along similar lines, that a lot of the work you will get will be somebody saying, "Ah, fucking hell, you know, my old bath's looking a bit shite," and somebody'd say, "Oh, Bob down the road, you know Bob, he had his bath done. It was this bath restoration company that did it. They did a fantastic job. Admittedly, they reported Bob to the local media for being a Nazi, but they did a fantastic job with his bath, and we recommend them." And that's kind of how it works, right? The goodwill and the advertising is all built up amongst the customer base that you already have, and it's not built up in online reviews, and that isn't where most of it comes from. And in fact, Laughing Witch's husband herself, he makes this comment about Yelp reviews. They only had 1 Yelp review.
This happens to be the only review I actually had on Yelp, but now we're just inundated with them.
Which makes me think that most of their business, very little of their business, is coming via that platform. And so, as some other people have said, in any case, even if they were getting all these negative reviews, it would take more than a couple of days for that to filter through, right? You build up your jobs, don't you? And you might go with a business like that, you might go several days without getting any work in, and then you'll get several jobs come in anyway. So you wouldn't really know after a couple of days whether it had impacted on your business. So none of that really rung true with me. But I just accepted it, right? I just accepted it on good faith. And I'm not sure that I do anymore now. And the other reason that I don't is because their behaviour doesn't ring true. They want to try, let's say they're being genuine about this, and they want to raise some money because they are in these dire straits as a result of what has happened. They can get sympathy without fanning the flames, right? They can make themselves victims without portraying Thunderford and his subscribers and everybody else, without saying things like he's an evil man.
I support my wife. I think she made the mistake of running into this very, very evil man.
I mean, genuinely, why the fuck would you say that? If what you wanted to do was to stop these reviews from coming, why the fuck would you say something like that? Why in your little piece for your fundraiser would you put in there that this paragraph, apart from calling it an evil storm, this paragraph suggesting these people that have done this, it could be you. This is the kind of people that could be coming for you next. You could be the next business in their firing line. If what you're intending to do is to stop, surely what you would say something along the lines is, my wife apologises, she realises she's sorry, she can understand how she would have stoked up some passions, right? But we want to draw a line under this now, so can we please stop? Whatever's happened, let's just forget about that, but moving forward, can we stop it? I don't want to overreach here, right? And I don't want to suggest that they're fanning the flames deliberately to provoke further reviews, perhaps because that is what you would need if you wanted to continue selling this to the media and have the possibility of a sort of Sarkeesian-esque exponential increase in the amount of funds that come in. I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not going to do that. But what I will say is that when your behaviour looks to a third party indistinguishable from the kind of behaviour that I would expect to see from somebody who was doing that, then that should call into question what it is that you're doing. Okay, so look, I want to draw a line. Hopefully this will be the very last thing that I'll ever have to say on this issue, but who knows. What I want to do is I'll just give you my conclusion, right? And rather than rephrase it, I've written it down so beautifully the other day on this slip of paper while I was away from home. I'm just going to read it out to you, okay? If the campaign had caused half as much damage as they claim, their language would be less inflammatory. I propose that effectively they are attempting to milk sympathy by not only highlighting their plight, but misportraying themselves as a much more innocent party than they actually are, in a bid to raise funds to alleviate problems that already existed with either their personal or their company's cash flow. If that sounds like I'm being harsh on them, I'm not being harsh on them. That is the lesser of the two evils. The greater of the two evils is that everything I've written there is a right load of old bollocks and we can rip it up. And actually what the situation is that no, actually these negative reviews are impacting on the business. And the best thing that could happen is for those negative reviews to cease as soon as possible. But if that is the case, and if their employees really are suffering as a result of this, then it is unconscionable that they would continue to use this goading and inflammatory language in the way that they are. And if you want to know if it is goading and inflammatory, look at the fucking comments that have been left on the past couple of videos that I've made. Hundreds and hundreds of comments of people picking out and taking exception to the language that these people are using. As it stands, I don't buy any of this anymore. I think it's bullshit. I think that the reviews have had bugger all impact upon their business, and they're effectively using this as a vehicle to try and get a little bit of cash out of it. As I've said already, it doesn't really seem to be working. It seems to have stalled at about 1/10 of the amount that they want to raise, and it doesn't seem to have progressed very much in a couple of days, which hopefully means that we can draw a line under all of this now and get on with something different. Okay, well, thank you for watching this again. If you've been prepared to do so, I promise something a little bit different later on in the week on superintelligence, and on the dangers and pitfalls potentially of supersized human cognitive functions. Okay, bye for